Hello. So today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Here I have a guitar. This is one of my personal guitars. It is a John Hornby Skews product, and presumably this is in the vintage range. It's essentially a kind of a Gibson SG style instrument. I did have a look them up online before filming this, and yeah, they still seem to sell this type of instrument. I've owned this guitar for probably over 20 years. I don't know exactly when this came into my possession, but it was given to me as a gift. It was an eBay purchase, but it does have a bit of an issue, unfortunately, and that's what I would like to address and tackle today. Now, bearing in mind, I am not a luthier, far from it, but you know, I guess everyone has to start somewhere, and you don't get those skills without sort of jumping in and giving it a go. So yeah, that's what we're going to do, and hopefully we can repair this thing and get it playing again. When I first started using it, I did notice that there were some issues. So there were some tuning stability issues, and I also noticed that if I applied any pressure on the back of the neck, the note would pitch down quite sort of noticeably. And hopefully you can see this. There's a crack here in this sort of cutaway where the neck joins onto the body. There is a similar crack on the other side, just here, and originally there was also a crack in the finish across the back. Hang on, let me put this down. There was a crack going across the neck here. Now, I should point out, when I first got this guitar, it wasn't in this state. All of this finish that's been removed was my doing. I've removed all of this because I could tell there was an issue, and I just wanted to do a little bit of investigation. It was very hard for me to tell whether the crack was just in the lacquer or whether it went right through into the wood. So I decided to remove some of the lacquer and the finish on this thing, and we can see here that the crack definitely does go through to the wood. And I believe that there is actually a bit of a crack and separation between the neck and the body here. I think there's a few ways that this could be approached. I think there's two ways in particular that I've considered. I guess in one sense, the easiest and probably the most sensible option would just be to try and get some glue into the crack to clamp it up and call it good, basically. The only issue that I have with that is that I'm not entirely sure how I can get glue effectively into this crack, because it is so closed up. Even with a syringe and trying to inject glue, I just don't think I would even, there's not even enough space to get a syringe in there. The other option would be to maybe attempt to use a router and take away material either side of the neck, and then to install new pieces of wood on either side to glue those in, and then carve those back to sort of match this original shape. Now, a lot more work would be involved. It's going to be a much more visible repair, and I guess there's a lot of potential for me to screw it up. So I think ideally what I'd like to do is just try and glue this back together. I'm going to maybe throw some strings on here, tighten them up, and then to see whether we can open this crack up enough to get any glue in. And depending on what we find, well, we can just take it from there and change tactic if we need to. Okay, so I have one full set of strings, which is a brand new set. I don't really want to have to use that just for this experiment, but I do have a few sort of loose strings that I've accumulated over the years. I think I just chucked a load away actually recently, thinking, oh, I'm not going to use them, why am I hanging on to them? I'm going to use these 3 strings that I have. We're just going to have a go and see what happens. And yeah, we'll see. We'll start tightening it up kind of as much as I dare, and we'll see if anything opens up. Sounds lovely. Kind of got a bit of a sitar kind of vibe going on. Oh yeah, I forgot about the nut slot. Isn't really designed for this size string. Maybe we should. Okay, I'll put this one in a different location. I should have thought about that really. Okay, well, the strings are on. No discernible movement in that yet. So let's just start winding these up a bit. I am a bit of a wind up merchant, so no. Wow, that's already feeling very tight. Oh God, I don't want to go too far and have these strings break. I'll aim them away from my face while I'm doing this. Ooh. Wow, I like that tuning. Lovely. Okay. I don't really dare go too much further with these strings. We're not getting any separation there really at all. I'm still in a quandary with what to do about this. Okay, so I've removed a lot more of the lacquer off the heel of the neck here and just sort of down the side, revealing this joint. And I've also clamped this down to the bench so that I can actually put a bit of tension, downward force on the neck to see what's happening. And it is, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, it is moving, and it is, that crack is opening up a bit. I can see that along this joint here that we have movement and it's opening up, and this crack down the side on this side is the worst. The crack on the other side is not as significant, but there is still one there and it does open a little bit. Now the problem is it's still not opening up enough to let me get any glue in there that I can, there's no way I can see that I could do that in any sort of reliable way. The other thing is, if I were to put much more pressure down on this neck to try and get this to open up much more, I think we might actually do more damage. I've already heard a few cracking and creaking sounds, and I think if I were to put much more pressure on, we would actually break something, maybe even pull the whole neck out. So I don't think that's a very good option. The only other option I can see is to mill away some material and replace it with some new material. So yeah, we have an extra piece of wood that has been glued onto the underside of the neck to create a heel on this neck. So if I were to, I think it's about 10 mil thick. So if I were to say to take off about half that depth, about 5 mil or so, and then route a pocket into the body as well and glue a single piece on the top that actually spans the body and the sort of heel of the neck, that should give us some increased stability. So I'm thinking that is the way that I'm going to approach this now. It also is going to be a lot easier for me to set up a jig to route material away here, rather than trying to get a route a bit down the side of the neck to route away material at the side of the body without going into the neck, without, you know, hitting any of the fret wires and navigating the pickup cavities and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think that might be the best option. Okay, so I have made a router template. I'm going to use this piece of wood as the inlay. Obviously I don't need that full depth. All I need to do really is fix this in place. I'm probably going to use masking tape and super glue to fix that. This is a nice tight fit. I don't know if you can see that very well. Yeah, it should give us a nice tight joint. So yeah, I guess there's not much else to do except to glue this down and to break out the router and route myself a little neck pocket, reverse neck pocket. I don't know what you want to call it, but let's make some shavings fly, shall we? Okay, so I've routed away a fair amount of material to create a pocket for the new piece of wood to sit in. It seems to be a fairly snug fit, which is good. The one thing I don't want to do really is to route so deep that I start to reveal there's a pickup cavity on the other side. I don't think I'm going to go anywhere near that, but it is, I have to be a little bit mindful of that. I think what I'm going to do is maybe try and just go down maybe like a couple of millimeters more, not a lot, but just a little bit more, because if I were to remove this template, it's never going to go back on in exactly the same place. So I've tried that in the past and learned my lesson. So yeah, I'm going to have a go at taking another little bit of material away. Okay, so I have just discovered something that might be slightly problematic.
Holy heart failure!
Now, if I just put this chisel in here, hopefully you can see that we have a very thin sort of veneer of wood that is lifting up. So I think what I've done is I've routed almost to the bottom of the original neck cavity, but I've not completely routed it away. I've left a very thin veneer of wood, which I don't think is ideal, really. I mean, if I glued a new solid piece of wood over the top, I mean, it's all going to get sort of sandwiched together. It's not, I don't think it'd be a massive issue, but at the same time, I don't think it's ideal, and I guess the perfectionist in me isn't happy leaving that. So, as I kind of alluded to earlier, to get rid of that, really, what I'd need to do is route away a little bit more material, which unfortunately would mean reattaching the template and attempting to try and get it lined up as perfectly as possible so that we don't end up with an unsightly and ill-fitting kind of step or a sort of mismatching pocket. The other issue is that I've just planed this bit of wood down, but I've actually, if I actually push that in down properly, I've actually planed it, particularly on this corner, I've planed it so it's only just a fraction above the finish at the moment. So if I were to take away too much material here, this might actually then sit below the surface of the surrounding wood, which would not be ideal. Do I route some more material away and potentially ruin what I've done, or do I just ignore this sort of flap of thin wood and just glue it all down? Not sure yet. Okay, so I have managed to rig something up with using a couple of pieces of wood here that should help me align the template to the sides and this back edge, hopefully pretty accurately. So I'm going to do that, and then yeah, we'll do a little bit more routing.
Speed is of the essence.
You risked your life.
Well, I don't think I could have got that any flusher. That's great.
Fortunately, I was able to dispose of that bomb in the nick of time.
So now that I have removed some excess material, thankfully I got a very, very clean, I mean, I'd say that's just about perfect. I cannot feel any kind of step or lip or anything. So the template went back in pretty much exactly the same location. So that's good. Now, what I have realized is that the piece of wood, this thin piece of wood, is actually tapered, which makes sense because I guess the neck pocket would have been tapered to give the correct sort of break angle on the neck. So if I keep going with this, it's going to go, as it goes further back, it's going to go deeper and deeper. So I think it's pointless removing any more wood. Also, we have exposed the pickup cavity. Only ever so slightly, and I think that's the little recess where the screws for the pickup need to sit. So I don't think that's a big issue. The other thing is that it has kind of exposed the crack. So I might just try and just see if I can get some CA glue just to leak into these cracks a little bit and maybe seal them up somewhat, and then we'll glue in a piece of wood. I've just tested this and it looks like that this piece of wood that I planed down sits below the height of the lacquer, but actually ever so slightly just above the wood of the body. So it may just about be big enough, but there we are. That's where we're at the moment. So yeah, let's remove all of this, maybe use some CA glue, and then maybe we can finally get around to actually gluing in the cap. Okay, I've managed to find something that is the same radius as the router bit that I used. I'm going to use that to carefully mark on the roundovers that we need on the corners, and I will have a go at chiseling that away. Okay, so after a bit of fettling with files, and I had to actually plane a little bit off the end grain here because I'd taken the curves a little bit too deep, but yeah, I think we've got pretty close. It's not perfect. This was never going to be an invisible repair, so I'm quite happy with that. This block ends just at the point where I would need to blend that in with the original thing, so it's only just long enough, but it's worked out just about perfectly. I think we've got more or less enough height. If it is ever so slightly below the surface of the wood, it's below the lacquer, but if it's actually below the surface of the rest of the bodywood, I can always just sand that down a little bit just to bring it flush. It's not a big deal. I've just done a quick test run with the clamps, so I guess there's nothing else left but to glue it up and leave it to set up. Okay, so I took the clamps off last night. I've left the glue to cure overnight, and this should be pretty well set up now. Next thing I need to do is to carve this block of wood down to shape and size. So I think first off I'm going to try and plane this surface down so it's flat and level, and then I may try and run a router to take this end section down in thickness, and then I may change bits and use a different router bit to sort of follow the profile of this sort of cutaway and the side of the neck to reduce the amount of work I need to do with chisels and files and sandpaper and that kind of thing. Okay, so I've carved this neck block away, given it a rough shape. It's not perfectly finished, but I've made such a mess of the rest of the finish that ideally I do really need to redo it from scratch, more or less. I've already amassed a lot of footage in this repair video, so I think we'll kind of call it a day there. And I'll save the refinishing work for another video. If you're interested in that, why not comment down below, and if we get enough interest, then I'll definitely do a follow-up. As it is, I think that the repair has made this structurally sound, and it should make it stable in terms of the tuning, or a lot more stable than it was, and it should make it much more playable. At least I hope. I guess we'll find out when I put some strings on. So I think what I'm going to do now is reinstall the electronics and the hardware, string this up, and then we can give you a bit of a demo. And then, yeah, we'll see if the repair has worked. What do you think to my repair, mate? No? Not impressed? All right. Good boy, good boy. All right, let's get you down. Right, so here is the finished, not finished guitar. It needs some work doing to it. It needs a proper setup. It needs refinishing, but the heel of the neck has been repaired, and it should be a lot more stable. Whoa, okay, hang on. There's my noodling from earlier. So, yeah, the heel of the neck has been repaired. So this should give us a lot more stability. Let's just do some sound demos. I haven't bothered setting up an amp because it was a bit of a hassle. So I'm just going straight into the DAW using the Bad Monkey. So you're going to have to forgive the noodling that you're about to hear, but... So it's not great. I think the intonation's a bit off, but it's playing again, and we shouldn't have too much sort of dive when I put pressure on the neck. I haven't actually tested this, so let's find out. A little bit, but that's a lot better than it was. I didn't do a demonstration of what it was like before, but it was a lot worse. So yeah, let's I think we should actually try and make some music with this. Let's give that a go. So considering I don't really know what I'm doing as far as when it comes to guitar repair, and sort of given the nature of the damage I was trying to repair, I'm actually really happy with how the result came out. I just want to say thank you for watching. Thank you for coming along the journey with me, and yeah, we'll be back with another video. I don't know what the subject's going to be. I have a few things in mind, but I like to try and keep you on your toes and surprise you as much as I like to surprise myself and keep myself interested and entertained. Hopefully I'm doing that for you as well. So take care, and I'll see you soon.